Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Katie Smetherman Holmes. Sorry about that. I knew I was going to mess it up. I tried it.
You're
We're gonna
good.
try that. And we're going to say the intro again, even though we're going to leave the first one in because we're just going to have fun here. And this is what Keep Hustling is about. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Katie Smetherman Holmes. Bam. Welcome to Keep Hustling, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
It's awesome to have you. I have a lot that I want to get into, but I want to start with something that I haven't really asked most of our guests, but I was thinking about this when I was preparing for this episode, and that is, and we're going to talk more about this, but you're in a field, or you provide services or advisory services that are related to, and I quote, purpose-driven entrepreneurship. So I want to ask a question that's related to that, and that is, where does Katie's purpose and drive come from? Take us back, take us to where it comes from, take us to where the hustle began. And then I want to talk more about purpose, but take us to where it comes from for you and what it means for you.
Absolutely. So I kind of write about this a little bit in my latest book called Unbreakable. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on my website.
And we'll link that in the show notes.
Yes. When I was in college, picking your major is like the most hardest and stressful thing when really it's not. But in that time, it's the most stressful thing in your life that you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and your career. And so I was just in general a very good student. I really love to study and learn new things. So I didn't really know where I wanted to go when it came to my career. However, I did know that I wanted something that I had a meaning in. I wanted to feel a purpose. I wanted to be driven into it. I didn't want to just like go into a job and then just be like sucked dry and like I'm just here to work and make money and then like leave the job. Like that wasn't ever my intention. I knew like in my gut that that just wouldn't bring me happiness and it would just be more detrimental. I grew up watching my godmother and her husband a lot when it came to just how they were interacting with their jobs because they were older than me. And my godmother's husband, he would go to work so excited. Like he could not wait to go back to work. And like his job was he's a perfumer. He's still in this industry today, but he had such passion for what he did. He went to school for chemistry because that's really all that perfumery is, it's a lot of chemistry. And so he kind of found it in, a roundabout way in his life, but like it once he found it, he was like, this is what I want to do. And so watching him, like I was like, that's what I want. Like I want to pick something that I am going to be passionate about, that is going to fuel me on a daily basis. Yes, I understand that, jobs, they ebb and flow. You have good days, you have bad days, but the drive is what I kind of really was after. And so in a heap of tears, I go to my godmother's couch because I'm like, I don't know what I want to do and I need to pick a major, but I don't know what it is. And so she was like, okay, like I just need you to word vomit at me. Just like tell me what you enjoy, tell me what you're kind of like looking for. Just I'm going to be typing away on my computer, but you just vent to me. Tell me some of the things that bring you joy, what you could be happy about. And so in this kind of evening that I was hanging out with her, she at one point asked, have you ever heard of graphic design? Because I knew that I wanted to do something creatively. Like I've always been a creative person. Just growing up, I just was naturally drawn to working with my hands, making something from nothing, like tinkering, finding out how things work. Like I love the creative kind of space. It was just something that I was naturally always drawn to. So she was like, have you ever heard of graphic design? And I was like, no, I don't know what that means. And she was like, well, you will be an artist, but like you'll have a little bit more, rigidity or rules in, like there's a lot in the creative field and workspace. So I think that that could be something you could be interested in. And by the way, the college you're going to has some really great classes. And so I started taking those classes, and once I started taking those classes, I immediately was hooked, and I haven't looked back ever since on if that was the right thing. I had a lot of family members being like, "You're getting a fine arts degree. Like, is this really what you're going to do? You're really good at math. You should be an engineer." And I'm like, that just because I'm good at math doesn't mean that it makes me want to do it all the time. So I was like, "No, thank you." And now I have a six-figure business. Like, I absolutely love what I do on a daily basis. I love the clients that I work with, and what I do and who I work with is really what keeps me going.
I love that, and I love how you're able to
That's the
really
long story
advertise that. No,
short.
I love that. That's what we're here. But I guess my next question is, and you work with people
Mhm,
and you work with clients, and I'm sure you see this because you help businesses grow and you also help businesses define their identity.
mhm,
And part of that, I think that especially professionally, but also heavily related and personally, is identity and purpose are linked. You can't really, especially in business or especially in the world of media or marketing or things like that, your purpose and your identity become one, or it should,
mhm,
right? If you're, and I tell people this all the time. I'm in the insurance advisory business. My father started a business on December 2nd, 1968, and
mhm,
my goal in life is to continue his legacy and to promote my mother's legacy, who built this business. And therefore, my passion and my purpose are the same. And by the way, that doesn't mean that only my profession is my passion, my purpose, right? I want to be the best father, passion, purpose, same thing. Best husband,
mhm,
passion, purpose, that I can be. But
mhm.
so therefore, finding your passion, finding your purpose is linked. Do you agree? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that you can have multiple passions and multiple purposes, but absolutely, I do think that there is a link between them, that if there is a disconnect, it's very apparent, and you in your body can like sense it so much more than like externally.
And it doesn't matter with spreadsheets, but it does matter when you're getting out there in the world and waking up in the morning, right?
Absolutely.
How do people find that passion, that purpose? How do people dig to themselves if they don't have the godmother whose couch to sit on? How do you help people find that? How do you find it? They have your couch.
Yeah,
And by the way, I will just say I wasn't. This is just a digression because my ADD is kicking in a little bit.
it's
That
okay.
looks
I
like
enjoy it.
for those who are watching, we're gonna get back to how we find our purpose. But for those you, first of all, you should be watching because watching podcasts is awesome, and you'll get to see the KHP studio and you get to see all my awesome guests and especially Katie's background. But
Yes.
Katie, for those who are not watching, looks like she's in the world's most comfortable chair. So we're gonna talk about that afterwards off air. But holy moly, forget about everything else, and then that chair looks incredibly comfortable. But anyway, how do you find your purpose if you don't have Katie's godmother?
If you don't have Katie's godmother, let me be your godmother. No, but my door is always open. I love listening to people. That's another thing that I'm a very empathetic person, which I think also just ties into, the creative kind of sphere. Like we want to learn and get to know not only the world around us, but a lot of times the people around us. And so I love hearing people's stories, their life stories. Like I want to learn more about you as a person and what drives you. And in talking to, whether it's me who can kind of like pick through and read between the lines, or somebody else, talking it out loud can help you put into things where you're like, oh, those are linked together. I see, I really do enjoy those two pieces together. Like that really drives me, or that like I feel something in my gut, or I feel something in my heart, or I feel something in my head, like something that gets you to feel. And so I think sometimes people, they get scared to talk or be that vulnerable, because it is a sense of vulnerability for you to talk about, what you think your purpose is, or what is driving you at the moment, or what your passion is, and how can those two things be linked. Say, but once you are able to like speak it out loud, write it down on a piece of paper, like get it out into the universe instead of just in your head, piecing it together, and or having somebody else like have you like be like, hey, like those two things kind of really talk to each other, is super helpful. And that's like one of the very first steps, is just getting it out, get out of your head.
I think, and what I've learned from this, so as you know, look, one of our
Mm,
biggest goals here and what drives us at Keep Hustling is that people define for themselves and redefine what their hustle is and just chase it. That means, and I've said this over and over again at nauseum in the 106 or 7 episodes that we're up to at this point, that means that everybody's hustle is different.
mhm,
And Keep Hustling means that that I am chasing my hustle, you're chasing your hustle, and the stay-at-home mom is chasing her hustle, and the nurse is chasing her hustle or his hustle, and the person who's collecting garbage is chasing their hustle, and all those different things. And everybody
mhm,
defines their hustle. And I think when we talk, and I don't know why this hit me when I was preparing for this. When we talk about passion and purpose, very often people are scared to go there. Because
Yeah.
what happens, I think, when you, and one of the best things about this podcast, I know I said there's a lot of best things, but this really is I have met so many people who have done exactly the opposite of what I'm about to say. And that is when people discover what their true passion and purpose is, they're scared to do it.
Yes.
And the best thing that has happened in this podcast, the people that have inspired me most in this podcast, are not necessarily the people that are the most famous, but the people that have taken the leap to chase their passion. And when they chase their passion, that's when they saw the most success, the most inner joy, and they were able to push harder than they ever thought they were able to accomplish, feel better, do things that they never thought they could. But what happens when the person discovers what their passion and their purpose is, but is too scared to take the leap? What happens then?
What happens then is you yourself will just slowly deteriorate over time. And I don't mean that in like a health sense because I'm not a health expert, but in a mental self, you will you'll just slowly deteriorate and you'll lose sight of what in the end you'll lose sight of what your passion was to begin with. And so my best advice that I tend to give people is take the leap, take the first step. The first step doesn't have to be big. It can be small, but as long as you take the first step, the next step will be a little bit easier. The next step will be a little bit easier. Like it becomes easier to start walking towards your passion and your purpose if you at least start. But if you were stuck in the like I can't start, then assess what may be scaring you. Is it a financial scare, fear that is holding you back? Like, do you have a family that you're trying to provide for that you're like, I can't really just uproot my job and change it to a different one? Is it, a housing thing? Like, do you need to change to a different location for your passion and you just can't make that huge leap? There's all these kind of like obstacles that life will put at you, but even just starting to think and plan for those steps is a step forward. And I think people kind of forget that some of those smaller steps, some of those smaller plans that may not be as grandiose, they think that it's like, oh, like I'm not actually like making any headway towards working towards my passion.
Well,
They
that's how
are.
side hustles. That's why side hustles are so great, right? You start with a little
Exactly.
passion, doesn't the headway doesn't really matter, and then eventually you can get to the point where it can become full time. I
Hmm.
want to
I
ask you
had
a
a
little bit about,
lot of obstacles. Like
yeah.
when I was starting out, I had so many obstacles. I had a lot of concern and opinions from my own family about, just what I was trying to do. But luckily, I had a small group of support system. I had, like I mentioned, my godmother. I had some really close friends. My parents weren't 100% on board, but they saw my passion in it and they saw that I was doing well in school, like, the grades and everything. And so they were like, okay, well, we'll support you. Little do they know, I graduated with honors, and I ended up surprising them by it because I graduated summa cum laude. And like as I'm walking across the stage, they were like, "What? I had no idea that like you were doing that good." And I was like, "Yes." And so once I started like going on to interviews, like they were like, "Oh, okay, like she's driven enough that we know that she's gonna succeed and find out."
I love
And
that. And I
so,
love that you kept hustling through it because if not, then we wouldn't have the amazing work you're doing today. I want to
thank
ask you
you.
a little bit about your work.
Hmm.
And I have a few pointed questions and see what happens. You say that authentic storytelling is the key to creating brands that truly resonate. How do you define a brand that truly resonates? And then I want to get to the power of storytelling.
Being authentic and vulnerable is key, especially nowadays with the rise of AI and a lot of just quick marketing kind of schemes that are out there. People, in general want to connect with people. They don't want to connect with a machine. And so the more real that we can embrace our humanness, embrace our vulnerability, embrace, what makes us happy, what makes us sad, what struggles are we dealing with today? Maybe today is a little bit harder than yesterday, but tomorrow could be better. Being able to share that authentically, not only with your team, so that your team can help provide support in the areas where you may be lacking or you may be struggling that day, but also to your clients or customers. Don't divulge too much where they get scared or they're like, oh, they are very rocky, but divulge enough that it makes people connect with you because that's what people are wanting. And so it doesn't matter what your hustle or what your business is, if you can find a way to connect to people with a human touch, then you're going to have not only a higher retention, but a higher, referral rate. There's a lot of things that kind of domino effect with just being able to connect.
What do you say to those who say that in a world of internet purchases and commoditization, the average
Hmm.
consumer doesn't care about my story or my what's not related to the business or to their deliverable or to their piece?
I would say they do care.
Right. Meaning my point is like a
Yeah.
lot of people say, I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to get on the call. All they want to hear about are my services or whatever. I'm in a relationship business, so I agree
Mhm.
with you 100%. And I actually think that
Right.
it's those things, in my opinion, it's those things that if a person believes that things have been commoditized by the internet, then the only thing that differentiates us are the relationships that we have. If
For
I
sure.
believe that I can get web design from anybody, then the web designer I'm going to choose is one who I connect to the most outside of web design, or I can relate to, or whose story resonates with me. Because, and if I don't believe that it's about commoditization, if I don't believe that insurance can be purchased from anyone, then I want to connect with the person anyway,
Right.
right? But I think that it's a weird irony there that the more the product becomes commoditized,
Hmm.
the more the connection is the differentiator. Because if the product
Hmm.
is not differentiating, or if the consumer acts like the product is not differentiated, even though it is.
Right. Yes. So with what my business does, we do brand strategy, design, and website design and development. There are a lot of people out there doing it, and there's a lot of really great designers out there doing it. I would say better than me, and then there's a lot of ones that are maybe still learning and not as great as me. And so you can get that commodity almost anywhere. There's a million different avenues to find somebody. How you differentiate is how you reach out and talk to the people. And so finding ways to not only jump on a FaceTime call or meet them in person if you're in the same city, but finding ways to, physically talk to them instead of just through email, instead of just through texting. Because again, like having that baseline human touch is one thing that will definitely change the game for anybody who does it. Another thing is, especially when it comes to, say, like internally, because, externally, it's really easy to kind of find avenues on how to kind of connect with people. Internally, I always, not only with myself, but I always do a check in with my team members. Sometimes I do it in a group setting, just being like, hey, like, is everybody good? Like, let's have just like a really casual chat. It doesn't have to be work related. If you have things about work that you really want to bring to my attention, that's fine, but I do want to keep it a bit more casual, set the tone from the beginning. And I also like do it individually where it's like, hey, I haven't chatted with you individually for a couple weeks, and we've just been inundated with just like client work and everything and just moving the needle forward. How are you doing? Like tell me about your family. Like I make sure to have some sort of connection and some sort of talking point with each one of them. And not only am I asking about their lives, but I'm also offering up pieces about my life. So one thing that's kind of frequently comes up is I'm still grieving. I will probably be grieving for the rest of my life. My mother passed away recently.
Sorry, I lost my father 2.5 years ago. I hear you. Almost three.
Yeah,
Never ends. Doesn't get
yeah,
easier. They're all lying to you.
it doesn't. I lost my mom in 2020. She had a very rare heart condition, and unfortunately, it just kind of gave out. I was in Italy at the time, so I wasn't nearby. So it hit really hard when she passed, and she was just a big cornerstone in our family too. So like you know, grieving is just love persevering. And so I will be grieving probably for the rest of my life. And around certain holidays, like it comes up where it's like, I just am struggling to focus. I'm struggling to, connect, or I'm struggling just, I'm having migraines because I suffer from chronic migraines. And so I'm very open with my team members where I'm like, hey, I know you're asking me these questions and I'm really trying. I really want to provide them for you. Today's just not really a good day. I'm constantly crying and I can't think straight. Can we try tomorrow? And so I don't want there to be a one-sided vulnerability. I make sure that like with my team, if I'm asking them vulnerable questions, I have to make sure that I would be willing to offer that type of vulnerability as well. And so that's a great way to build that human connection and build that trust because especially now that so many people work remotely, some people, are going back to the office, but a lot of people are still connecting remotely. And so, you're still looking through screens or chatting through emails and text. And so finding those ways where it's like you can have a connection is that how you build that trust. That's how you build that loyalty. That's how you build people who want to constantly share about you.
What do you say to people and brands who think that they're not interesting enough to share their stories?
You are. Because one, being in the creative field, I think we kind of have a tendency to do this, but I myself especially have a tendency to do this where I'm like, I am not interesting. My life story is very normal, even though whenever I talk to people, they're like, all of that happened to you and you're okay. So if I am constantly intrigued and excited to meet and learn about people and hear all of the uniqueness that they have to offer. The same goes for you or for anybody else. Like every single person on this planet is unique. Like no two people are the same. There's a
So you're
lot of
saying even though I'm an
similarities, but
identical twin, I have my own identity?
yep,
That's just I try to shout out that whenever I can. It makes me feel good. I think the other thing is there's enough people in the world that will find you interesting that if you just connect with those people, you're good. Right? Like I don't want to offend any listeners. So I'm not going to come up with any ideas, any examples, but there are some weird, quirky things that people are into and that make people tick, for lack of a better term, in the nicest possible way, right?
right,
And and I'm not, and someone could be into whatever. And if you just connect with all those people who are into that, or who find that interesting, or who find, some people love travel, some people think travel is terrible.
for sure. There are
Some people,
communities everywhere. You just have to
exactly.
you have to start looking to be able to find them. If you don't start looking, you're never going to find them because you're not looking. Like it's
And
not
what's
just
the
going to
best way
happen
to
in your
look?
lap.
And what's the best way to look? To get your story out there so that people say, "Oh, I think you could. I
Mhm.
think you'd resonate with this." So that
Mhm.
fear of not being interesting ultimately ends up being, I think, the greatest hindrance to
Mhm.
making those connections. And as you say, it's super important for all brands to tell the stories and to share that passion and purpose because that's when it resonates and that's what creates truly loyal consumers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
People want to help you in your passions. If they see you are passionate and have a purpose, a lot more people are willing to like flock and help and support or find a way to connect than if you just weren't sharing it. So
God, I love that.
sharing it is helpful.
Be vulnerable, people. It's part of your
Yeah,
hustle. Embrace it. By the way, and something I've learned in this podcast, 100 plus episodes, social media, is that most people really don't care. Like,
yeah,
and those who do, if you find, my thing is, if a bunch of people think you're doing the wrong thing, again, doing it legally, ethically, morally, things like that, or people think it's stupid or silly, their volume is like really down. But if you find like one or two or three or four, even five people who like cheer you on, think it's awesome, like it doesn't matter. And those people you want to connect with. So I think that's awesome. And thank you for being vulnerable and for sharing that with us. Katie, as you
absolutely.
know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast. We ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational or inspirational quote. And so, with
Mm.
that, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you. I'm going to try this one more time, and I'm going to say thank you, Katie Smetherman Holmes, for being here. And we're going to link your books, how to get to you, website, everything in the show notes. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a joy being on your podcast and chatting with you. The quote that I most live by is I know that it's been used elsewhere, but I know it from my mother. It is, you can do anything you set your mind to. And I think that also speaks volume to just how driven I was as a kid. Looking back, even with all of the doubts and opinions and concerns when it came to picking my major and picking kind of what I wanted to do for my career, I still persevered and I still kept pushing forward because that is what I had made my mind up to be. So I was like, I am going to not only prove these people wrong, but I'm going to be happy doing it. Like I'm going to make sure that I am happy. And so
And you kept hustling.
I kept hustling. And so that's where whenever I have a moment or I have times in my career or life where I'm like, oh my gosh, like really struggling. I'm really just I don't know if this is what I want to do or where I want to be. I just constantly remember you can do anything you set your mind to. And then it helps pull me back a little bit into reality and be like, you know what? No, I can do it. It's just a hard day. Tomorrow will be different, maybe next week will be different, whatever it may be, but that always kind of helps ground me.
I love that. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling, and you definitely kept hustling, and that's why you're here today. So this has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.